Briscoe's chicken, took his mule to plow. Always meant to give him back, going on 2 years now. If the boys come to look for him, I'll just have to say that darn mule followed me home and ate up all my hay. Out in the ditch, rolling in the mud, cussing and a-fighting, saying things I never should, with an elbow in the teeth and my 2 years bitten free. I'm disgusted with myself, dirty me, dirty me. Every time I go to town, I act really bad, throwing rocks and breaking things, the most fun I've had. Tried to court Miss Wiley, culture ain't my thing. I'll go back to the mountains so I can plight Charlene. Out in the ditch, rolling in the mud, cussing and a-fighting, saying things I never should, with an elbow in the teeth and my 2 years bitten free. I'm disgusted with myself, dirty me, dirty me. Andy played tricks on me when Charlene got hitched. Barney dressed up as the bride, an unexpected switch. When I saw what I had done, I felt like a loser. But when I stopped to think about it, beggars can't be choosers. Out in the ditch, rolling in the mud, cussing and a-fighting, saying things I never should, with an elbow in the teeth and my 2 years bitten free. I'm disgusted with myself, dirty me, dirty me. I'm disgusted with myself, dirty me, dirty me.
The name of that song is titled Dirty Me, I'm Disgusted with Myself. It was written and performed by my special guests today, Rodney and Beverly Dillard. They have a new album called Songs That Made Charlene Cry. And if you're wondering what that's about, they're going to explain it to you. Welcome, Rodney and Beverly. It's just an absolute honor to have you on the show today.
Well, thank you very much, and I so much appreciate you putting your career on the line to have us on.
Tell us a little bit about how this album ties into the marvelous history on the Andy Griffith Show, playing the fictional band called the Darlings. You were on Andy Griffith Show 6 times between 1963 and 1966. Fill me in, please.
Well, it's a very strange. I start this off by saying the Dillards have been sort of a schizophrenic group where we've been known as the Darlin family. Of course, we had the other side of that by doing concerts and different things, and different good things happened to us over the years then. This particular album, the one before this, Old Road New Again, has a lot of my friends on it. I'm dropping names here, it sounds, but I'm just excited to have them. Was Ricky Skaggs is one of them.
Bernie
Ledden.
And the Biggie from the Eagles.
Oh, Don Henley.
Yeah. Of course, the Andy Griffith fans, there are a huge number of them, in the millions. And we didn't know really what that was for a while. We just get out and do our thing, and do-de-do, and play. But doing this album, the songs that made Charlene cry, from the audience, somebody would say, "Do dirty me," or, "We love me when I'm old and ugly," or something like that. Of course, there was no song there. So
Because on the show, they were
titles. There were 11 titles that were
9.
9. Thank you. Beverly and I, to keep from just burying each other in the shallow grave during COVID, decided to write those songs. Been thinking about doing it for several years and thought it was time maybe to do that just for fun. Because of that, we actually started our own record label for fun.
Right.
83, and I can't hear and I can't see, and started a record label. There you go.
Fun for you. You had the idea. I do the work.
By the way, what is the name of that new record label?
Dillard Song Records. And our logo is a dog howling into the microphone. Dogs have been a great experience for me since I was a kid because we did Old Blue and the story about that we created. And so that's how that started. And then we got really excited because we used the players that we use and a couple other ones, they're phenoms. They grew up as kids playing bluegrass.
Cory Walker, Jared Walker. And by the way, on Dirty Me, their dad, David Walker, wrote the chorus.
Yeah, he did. So we used the Walker boys.
It's kind of a Walker CD.
And Jared, of course, plays with
Billy Strings.
Yeah, Billy Strings. They're just all good boys, and we like them. So.
And Cory has East Nashgrass, and then he plays with us now when he can because they're really coming on. That's our favorite band.
Yeah, but they're good people.
The person who played Charlene in the series Andy Griffith Show, Maggie Peterson Mancuso, do you still keep in touch with her, or is she still living?
She unfortunately passed a few years ago.
I think this time of year, very close, a couple of years ago. She did used to travel. We would book her with us. She'd come out of Las Vegas. She was as wonderful as she was on the show. Everybody loved her. She'd get a standing ovation when she walked on a lot of times before she ever sang. And she planned to do this with us and to say, "Oh, Paul, that one makes me cry." She was so excited about it and passed away before we could get it done. So we dedicated the whole album to her. And that's why I sing There Is a Time solo like I do. It's a tribute to her.
A lot of the folks who've recorded that, Alan Jackson and a bunch of folks, Beverly went out there started just with a banjo.
Six-string banjo.
Six-string banjo and sang the songs. Just nailed it.
Naked.
Nailed it the first time around. It's an innocent approach to it that nobody else has done. And I think sometimes if you don't surround with a lot of production, you mean the words when you sing them. It has a lot bigger impact. It's almost like sometimes a black and white photo speaks better than the colored photo.
Let's do a second song from this new album. It's called Don't Hit Your Grandma with a Great Big Stick.
You can poke a possum with a 10-foot pole, smoke that groundhog out of his hole. When no one's looking, you can pee in the creek, but never hit your grandma with a great big stick. Granny's precious, she can be mean like a cat's tail caught in a sewing machine. Got a temper, kick you out the door. If you make Granny mad, you won't live her anymore. Don't make Granny mad. Stayed at Granny's back in Tennessee. Dear old lady, she tends to be. Buford slingshot whacked her in the face. They say he's buried somewhere on the plains. Don't whack Granny's face. You can poke a possum with a 10-foot pole, smoke that groundhog out of his hole. When no one's looking, you can pee in the creek, but never hit your grandma with a great big stick. Grandma's wrinkled, hair is snowy white, gentle eyes a twinkle when they catch the light. Nasty neighbor pulled her silver hair, spend a lot of time in intensive care. Don't pull Granny's hair. You can poke a possum with a 10-foot pole, smoke that groundhog out of his hole. When no one's looking, you can pee in the creek, but never hit your grandma with a great big stick. Never hit your grandma with a great big stick.
I'm sure you both had a lot of fun making this album.
We did. That song, I'm afraid, I would tell Beverly, I said, family services, elderly abuse, people are going to come after us.
Well, Grandma was the mean one in it.
Oh, she could be.
You've talked about a lot of these young people, but you're still pretty good on the guitar, and Beverly is excellent at the clawhammer banjo. You hold your own with this. The album is produced so well.
Thank you. A lot of times in the bluegrass genre, sometimes the players never, I don't say this about everybody, but it seems to practice, they'll play without hearing the lyric, and they don't play to the lyric. But these guys learned so well and so aware of things that they played and supported the lyric. If you listen to their lick, Cory Walker went home and got his low-strung banjo that goes boing, 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 did one of the songs on the...
Played on mine, and it was beautiful because it was like the song. It was like another lyric.
And so they listened to each other. That's what I like. They played to the song.
Tony Ray produced it.
Yeah. Tony Ray produced this with me as one of the most talented guys I've ever met. He's just amazing. He was working as Dan Tominski's band leader at one time. very humble. I'm just in awe of him. He didn't get caught up in the Nashville thing, gotta do it, gotta make it, gotta make it. He moved to Muncie, Indiana, and just does what he wants to do.
I enjoyed this as much, if not more, than the 2020 album. I'd be amiss if I didn't talk a little bit about the early years. Your move from Salem, Missouri to LA in 1962. The original members of the Dillards were, of course, yourself, Rodney, and your brother Doug, Mitch Jane, Dean Webb, and then later Herb Peterson when Doug left the group. You've been designated as the father of country rock. The reason for that is the type of music that you were writing, the direction you were taking bluegrass music and country music in itself, and electrifying the instruments, which was way ahead of its time. Two great albums I want to recommend to our listeners. One of them is Wheat Straw Sweets, which has been remastered. Copperfields is the other one. Wrote the music for the film track Bonnie and Clyde in 1967. Toured with the Byrds and Dillard and Clark. One of my favorite guys I know was a friend of yours and a co-musician, Gene Clark.
Yes, there's one information that might be slightly askew on that. Doug did not write Foggy Mountain Breakdown on the Bonnie and Clyde. But Doug and I and Glenn Campbell were the band that they used what they call source music. This is a side story. What happened was we were in Warner Brothers soundstage with this huge orchestra, right? And they were laying out all this sheet music. Neither Glenn nor I or Douglas read. They had this tenor banjo player with us. And it got really hokey. It got like Dixieland. Somebody come up to me, one of the stars of the movie, and the producers, and said, "What's wrong with this?" I said, because I was pushing for us. I said, "You just need some real legitimate bluegrass in this." So, okay, we did the source music, took us a week. When it came time for the showing, it wasn't a big premiere, parked in front of the theater there, it was Grauman's, it was one of the theaters on Hollywood Boulevard. And here comes that producer. You know what I did? He says, "I got an old Flat Scruggs record called Foggy Mountain Breakdown." So that's how that story happened. Yeah, I'm full of them.
And I can't talk about the early days because I was in elementary school in North Carolina.
The Dillards did tour with Elton John on the Yellow Brick Road tour.
Yes, that was really fun. He was very gracious to us. He would come out sometimes at the end of our set and do a song with us. Not many big guys like that would do that, but he did. We never felt like an opening act. That helped us reach other people that probably might have never heard the five-string banjo or Carrie, and it just gave us a new audience to play to, which came in to see us when we played the Troubadour and came back for the second set. That's how that happened. We fell in some really good places and then, missed out on a lot. Don Henley has been very gracious about giving us a lot of credit for, what they did. Interesting. People would say, "Aren't you bitter because you never got to the success that they did?" And I says, "Yeah."
Hey,
No, life has been good.
Let's do a third song. This is one that I like a lot. It's called "Will You Love Me When I'm Old and Ugly?"
Will you love me when I'm growing old? When hair is hanging out my nose, my toenails turn a yellow hue. Will you love me 'cause I love you? When I lose my car in the parking lot and I cannot find my shoes, and the milk's left out overnight and I blame it all on you. Will you love me when I'm old and ugly? 'Cause I will still love you. When the morning after turns to years and we made it through all the tears, our children all have grown and the wild seeds are sown. Will you love me when I'm old and ugly? 'Cause I will still love you. is broken. When you kiss me on the cheek, is it love or just a token? Will you love me when I'm old and ugly? 'Cause I will still love you. Will you love me when I'm growing old? When hair is hanging out my nose, my toenails turn a yellow hue. Will you love me 'cause I love you? Will you love me 'cause I love you?
Pretty profound song.
Well, actually, I think even people who aren't Andy Griffith fans could relate to that.
It's a love song for senior citizens.
Yeah.
We
It is.
wrote that driving home from Nashville. We left the bass player's house, Gary Smith, and his wife, Ann, fixes this coffee that we call Christian Speed. That's just really strong. And we started to drive home and we just started writing this song. We had nothing to write it down with or anything. We just made it up from kind of like real experiences. And it's become one of our first two.
And by the way, I just want to interject something here, what you said about this album and the 20 album. I'm so glad to hear that because I felt like we were really going out on a limb to do this particular album. Not all my albums we did are favorites. I don't go that way. There's some that I wish I could have done over. That helps me. The fact that you looked at that album that way, that makes me feel not so insecure.
Yeah, I mean, you're the first person that's given us that kind of feedback.
Yeah.
I mean, we've not talked to anyone yet since it goes to the radio
So,
on the 8th.
yeah, we're having a big release party. It's Beverly, I, and our dog.
Yep, Kenny, our mastiff.
Yeah, we're gonna sit out and look at the lake. Probably just
Eat ice cream.
eat ice cream. Yeah.
I'd like to talk a little bit too about somebody I know you were very close with and collaborated with. Had the album from 1977 called Dillard, and that's John Hartford.
We met because his dad was a professor at Washington University. And John lived in a gated community. They dressed for dinner. And somehow we got hooked up. It happens back then, if there was a bluegrass player who played a banjo, you used to have to drive 500 miles to find a banjo player. Now I have to drive 500 miles to get away from him. Yeah, we met John when we were young. John and Douglas were 5 years older than me. John would come over to the house and pick all night and play all night with my dad. You know, he was an old picker too, play fiddle. We got involved with John that way. We started a little group called Joe Knoll and the Dixie Ramblers. Why you had to be called Dixie Ramblers or Mountain Boys? I was always amazed at those bluegrass guys that called themselves the Mountain Boys and they were 90 years old. But that's another story. John was left brain. He was different. He was a different person. The music was his whole thing. I can remember we were going somewhere, and back then you had the old windows that rolled up and down. Well, he tied a banjo string to the hook, the little closed hook on the sign, and wrapped it around that crank. And with his finger picks, he made a tune and played that by cranking the crank, changing the notes. This happened for a good hour. I was ready to kick him out of the car. But John and I did a lot of dates together, had wonderful times. He was something else. And I loved doing the albums. If we had fun doing the one in Nashville with all those pickers like that. We just had a good time. Miss John.
And he just played up in Owensboro with Sam Bush at a John Hartford Memorial Weekend. They had panels and played songs and swapped stories and stuff. It was really nice there at the museum.
There were some questions that I would love for them to ask, but I couldn't have answered them.
2-time Grammy nominations, and you were also inducted into the Bluegrass Hall of Fame. You're pretty well known out there too.
You know, how do I explain this, Beverly? I just lived in my paradigm, my reality, and did what I loved to do. I wasn't like it didn't get competitive with me. I was blessed to be able to, survive by, here's a guy beating on a tree that was made into this thing with wire stretched across it and beating on it and yelling and expected people to pay me to do that.
All of our friends say, and I agree, Rodney doesn't know who he is. And he's always surprised. The Country Music Hall of Fame. This is the last year of the exhibition of West Coast starting of with all the electric instruments. That beginning, and they all say Rodney started it. So the beginning of this display in the Country Music Hall of Fame for the last 3 years is the Dillards.
Yeah, it's a big display. It's a smelly old shirt and a beat up guitar.
Actually, those are in there, aren't they? Yeah.
Not all of your songs, though, are humorous, although a great deal of them are. But there's one of my favorites on the album. Why don't we play that? It's called Slimy River Bottom.
When the love of gold is your main attraction, no matter what it takes to justify your actions, sell your soul and say it's a game. The road to heaven ain't the same. Going down to the slimy river bottom. People study scripture, debating the result. Taking verses out of context can become a cult. If you think you know Jesus just because you read about him, you're going down to a slimy river bottom. The slimy river bottom leaves the weed and takes the chaff. Those who preach prosperity rebuilds the golden calf. The feel-good gospel makes the devil laugh, dragging you down to the slimy river bottom. Sought the well just to quench her thirst, but she found living water, 'cause Jesus got there first. Make sure that your water comes from the living well, or go down to the slimy river bottom. The flock will follow leaders who ring the loudest bell. Where the tickling tone will lead you, only time will tell. Plan your escape as the righteous did from Sodom, or go down, down, down to the river bottom. The slimy river bottom leaves the weed and takes the chaff. Those who preach prosperity rebuilds the golden calf. The feel-good gospel makes the devil laugh, dragging you down to the slimy river bottom.
That song really jumped out at me. And I know that a lot of people are going to listen to that and say, yeah, he's pretty deep.
Well, we were hoping they didn't tar and feather us, but that's our belief. So,
Well, and I won't touch on that too much because I don't want to pontificate like people tend to do. But 80 fathers a day.
Have you got some gigs coming up?
Yeah, we do. I can remember back in the old days when we were supporting 7 people, and including the manager and the agent. If I didn't take a date, I felt guilty. You had families to support. So when it got to the point where I've been blessed with being able to, like Steve Martin said one time, he says, I have all the money I need and I don't want any less.
well, let me tell you what shows are like these days. If Rodney thinks it's not going to just be like, oh, we're going to fly to the West Coast and we're going up into Canada and out in the middle of nowhere and it's going to take you 2 weeks to get there. If he thinks something's going to be fun and not so much hassle, then he goes, yeah, let's do that. He wants it to be fun. And at this stage of life, why not?
We live here in Branson, where it used to be the big entertainment thingy happening. I was here for several years because we were raising our children and I would not go out on the road. If you're going to have a child, you make that decision that it's not all about you. We were here for a long time and I didn't know if my fans were still alive or what, but we started going out after how many years?
Well, let's see.
We had a show here for
Well, we raised Brian some, and then we raised the one we had when I was 40 and he was almost 50 until she graduated high school. And when the kids were gone, we went back on the road. But we did not play. Well, in my 50s there, when she was growing up, I did 18 shows a week in town. Buck Trent from Hee Haw, very close friend who passed away last year. Then I played with the Grand Ladies, all these lady Grand Ole Opry stars, Leona Williams and all these wonderful ladies. So it was great for me. And it was like I didn't work because I dropped the kid at school, go to a show, pick her up, do 2 more. He was running the studio and working and writing with Jim Stafford. So we were very, very busy, just not on the road.
So I guess to sum that all up, as get out of this rabbit trail, is the fact that I go out if I can't. I told Beverly, when I start hearing crickets, I'll quit.
So far, we've been filling theaters, which is great. An occasional festival. We don't go out in the 98-degree weather anymore because that's not fun.
You've got a great website called rodneydillard.tv.
Kind of simple, isn't it?
Yeah. And a great store on that website that keeps me busy.
This new album can be purchased there directly.
Yes.
I think we're going to definitely do Amazon, but right now on our store, you can buy an autographed copy, or we have put a download where you get 2 downloads and then all the artwork. People have really enjoyed that because it's so hard to sell in Europe right now. So we just tell the fans there when they're saying, how can I get it? Do the download from our store. And we'll probably eventually go to the other outlets. But just like with the album in 2020, we decided to do this ourselves for a while instead of giving it away for 0.001 cent.
Yes, it'll keep me from being a Walmart greeter. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
That website again, it is rodneydillard.tv, facebook.com/the Dillards, x.com/the Dillards.
She mentioned John McEwen. John and I do dates on occasion together. And that's always fun because you never know what you're going to do.
For our younger fans, we need to point out that John McEwen was a member of the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band.
Founding member.
Yeah, one of the founding members of the Dirt Band, yeah. And his brother Bill, who managed Steve Martin and did the Jerk movie, produced that one.
And did the first Circle Be Unbroken. That was his brother Bill. What we're getting ready to do, we're doing in Granite City, Illinois, a theater there coming up in May. We're doing Romp, the big festival for the IBMA Hall of Fame. At the Country Music Hall of Fame, they're having this artist presentation of Rodney telling stories, answering questions, singing songs in one of the theaters, July 20th in Nashville. We're looking forward to that. And we always do Mayberry things back in Andy's hometown, Mount Airy, North Carolina, which I grew up near. We go and sell out the theater every year there for, a lot of years.
A lot younger.
Yeah, we keep coming back. Douglas, of course, used to do it with us. Dean did it a few times, but then we've been doing it for many years and it sells out every year. You know, he did get a PhD a couple of years ago. So every time we argue, he says, I am a doctor.
Well, that just lowered the standards, the whole thing for the honorary doctor thing.
My special guests today have been Rodney and Beverly Dillard of the Dillards. They have a terrific new album out at rodneydillard.tv. It's called Songs That Made Charlene Cry. Thank you both so much for being on the show today. Why don't we go out with one more song? This is called Wet Shoes in the Sunset.
Thank you for having us, and I've learned a lot from you today.
You're the best. Thank you.
Wet shoes in the sunset, found a note on the door. She left with another, don't love me no more. I sit here and wonder what I done wrong. Wet shoes in the sunset, and now she's gone. I bought her a chainsaw and a rake for the lawn. I traded my milk goat for her wedding gown. I moved my old coon dog so she could lay down. I searched for my darling, but she can't be found. Wet shoes in the sunset, found a note on the door. She left with another, don't love me no more. I sit here and wonder what I'd done wrong. Wet shoes in the sunset, now she's gone. I'm here at the front gate in the pouring rain. Been here for days now to wash away the pain. Wet shoes in the sunset, can't lose my best friend. Was her or the coon dog? Oh, blue winds again. Wet shoes in the sunset, found a note on the door. She left with another, don't love me no more. I sit here and wonder what I done wrong. Wet shoes in the sunset,